Get back out there. All right, I'd like to call the meeting to order.
This is getting dry in here, so.
First thing on the agenda is the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. Vince?
Present. Yep, here, David. Here.
I was gonna wonder if you're gonna give me a chance. Erica?
Here.
And here as well, after David flustered me. Has a meeting been properly notified?
Yes, it has, and as a reminder, it's being recorded and live streamed.
All right. First thing on the agenda is a scheduled presentation by guests and staff. We have Chance and Lindsay here to talk about summer school report.
Do we need to speak in this and
For the, yes, please.
Hey, everybody, Lindsay and I are here to talk about all things summer school. And it really encompasses now, it has always, but you'll see in these next couple of slides from all the way from our 4-year-olds that were transitioning into kindergarten all the way up to our 2 years. We're either doing both academic and athletic type things. So we'll go over it. There's a lot of big picture overview things, so just slow us down or shout out if you got questions on anything specific. We need to reconsider the order of our slides. We'll dive right into the numbers. We have some pictures in a little bit. Maybe that's what we should start with. So this is on since Lindsay and I kind of 4 years ago, 5 years ago, kind of took this on and have created a tag team approach in terms of, for the most part, handling all things elementary, and I'm at the middle school and then some things with the high school. But we do go back actually 10 years of records of all the things attendance. So at the bottom, you kind of see a 3-year running total of where we are. Quickly, what those numbers are, on the left-hand side is the number of kids that actually showed up. And number to the slash to the right, the denominator is the kids that actually registered. So that's the difference in those two. I'll let you digest that for a second. For the most part, it's like in the very bottom of this whole screen, the totals. So like in June this year, 627 kids showed up. It's close to being 627 unique kids, but it's not exact. So like some of those kids that showed up for high school strength and conditioning were also there for some of the remedial academics. A couple, say middle school. But again, it's close. It's not 100% unique individuals. Any numbers question?
If you were to gut shoot the overlap, 5%, 10%.
I would guess it's probably 5 at the most. Yeah.
So about a third of the high school kids are doing strength and conditioning.
Yeah, I can tell you those numbers are unique, or those are specific to individuals. Both the strength and conditioning at the middle school and high school are kids. There's no overlap there. It's not kids showing up to football, weightlifting, and then doing a separate workout session.
So we have 500 kids in high school, I think, ish. So it's about a third. It's really impressive.
Yep. 1,600, Tim, district, kids in the district.
Yeah.
So I was kind of thinking the same thing there, Jeff, in terms of how many kids we see throughout the summer. So it's almost a half, about 40%, I would guess, that at some point we're connecting with some kids in some capacity. It's a print out in slides too. Like Kelly has the whole thing printed out, so if you want to refer back to it or it's back up. It's there.
Here's just our calendar. So like Chan said,
you know, the amount of kids we see in the summer, we're able to offer something for 7 out of the 12 weeks of this, whether it be intervention, trying to catch kids up, some enrichment stuff. BFS is not on those numbers, right? That's completely different.
Nope. That goes all summer.
So that's all summer, and then just our 2 weeks in August of intervention was, and I believe, after a second, this year we were higher. We were able to bring more kids in, so really trying to get those lacking skills in some of those kids, which was really good. Just a couple of pictures from the elementary school. STEM is always one of our ones that fills up within like the first 7 minutes that registration is open. And we actually had a middle school teacher come and teach it this year, so that was really fun.
STEM and cooking.
Yeah, so this next one, our class operates, STEM and our central chefs fill up right away. But as you can see for here, we offer 10 classes per hour session. We have 3 hours in the morning, 3 different sessions, so kids can sign up for 3 different classes within that time. And then we offer intervention, both math and literacy, 1st grade through 8th grade, and that is based on assessments we do during the school year, typically our Bass Bridge screener, and that helps us make a list of kids that we really want to spend some more time with to get some language skills and hopefully catch them up a little bit before they leave for the summer. And then again in August, typically those kids are the same kiddos we bring in again. Yeah, very cool about that for a lot of things. For our kids in the summer, it's actually pretty cool the things they get to do. So,
With that many offerings, sorry,
oh, go ahead.
with that many offerings, each one of those exploring classes, both at the elementary and middle school, we cap at 25. Like, we're not turning anybody away, that never doesn't happen. So a kid shows up first morning of summer school, we find a spot for him or her. But then it gives us enough room with the 10 classes at the elementary and 5 at the middle school, 250 and 125, combined with our academic courses, to have enough room for everybody with some wiggle room in between. Those academic classes, middle school are no more than 8 to 10 kids, same time in elementary. We're pretty fortunate that we have a lot of staff that are specialists in those areas that stick around and continue to teach that in June. Kirsten Bowles and Mallard's was the reading interventionist throughout June, and very, you've seen Kirsten up here, how passionate she is about the things that she's doing with reading and writing, so.
And they're able to continue with the curriculum they use during the school year. So for kids, it's a really easy transition because the vocabulary is the same and it's not great teaching. Something is just continuing that practice and application. So, any questions on that?
There are high school band events, those of you that have high schoolers know that they have different things that they kind of do with Mr. Conway. Not so much what Mr. Helmrich has going, he's more introducing the kids to the instruments. So this is his schedule. You can see it's 6th grade heavy, because that's the first year that 6th grader or middle schoolers can join band. So these are his sessions at the end of July, or he started the first week of August this year. But typically July to the beginning of August, where he onboards them and really gives them 3, maybe 4 kids at a time max per group to work with those kids as they get prepped up for full band. Then he does have his 7th, 8th graders you can see come into also. Dust off the instruments. And then this is also on the calendar, but Ellsworth does an amazing job, and we are. It's Richmond was nice, and it obviously was a little bit closer when we came to you guys 3 years ago to kind of make the switch. One, Ellsworth charges half as much, but the experience that they have at the Ellsworth pool is phenomenal, and their coordinators and their staff are they do it right. They really do it right, and our kids come away every year not only learning a ton but really enjoying it. That's the last slide. So, fire questions? Callie's working on all the fine details that Pam left here that we turn into the state. As we get funding for every minute that some kids in front of our teachers. So
How did that line up for funding, like approximately? Is it kind of what we had targeted or?
you're not done, right? That's what to tell you.
Okay,
Um,
I just.
Knowing what those numbers are back there. It'll be cool.
Yeah, how many hours equals one FTE? Remember off the top of your head?
I was gonna say.
And then of that, then you get 0.44. So.
I wanna say, and don't quote me on this number, I think in 2019, we were at 57 FTE. 50 something.
If I know Pam, there's a spreadsheet sitting on Callie's desk that.
We saw it
So,
it's
yeah.
on that,
the other night.
Yes.
Oh, did it?
Yeah,
the revenue
just
limit
with
works
the-
out
yeah,
too.
the rev-
I wanna say
revenue.
26, after all the formula's done, we get 26 FTE. For all those scores.
Yeah.
Any stumbling blocks that we learned from this year? Everything just.
It went pretty smooth this year. People are very thankful we offered it, after last year not being able to offer it. And it was a really nice transition into what fall would look like for us. So it was awesome. I know, speaking from the elementary school specifically, but in talking to Chance.
Do you know what contributes, I mean, sorry, to the numbers,
That's okay.
or any idea on like June is consistent and August is on an upward trend across all three.
So it depends on staffing that we can get for August, but then we really base it on our kids' number too. And just if they're available. This year, did we do it a week earlier? Yeah, so we moved it up a week earlier in August, so
Okay,
that helps because families can still get that last week
Yeah.
vacation before school.
okay,
Well,
That
and
might help.
if you're talking about the very bottom right cell in each one of those.
Yeah.
It's probably, I mean, if you look at the academics up at the top, for the most part, that's consistent.
right,
It's the kids that are coming into the middle school to lift. Because
that's the biggest.
we
part.
left,
Okay,
we left.
Three
Full,
days a night.
we left 3 full sessions going into middle school that were full with 40 kids, 25 kids, and then the evening class of
okay,
15, 20 each. So really, that's where the majority of those numbers, because in the past, we didn't have that many kids willing to come in the summer, but now more so than ever. They're waiting at the door to get in at 6 a.m. Kids that can't drive, so kids that are getting mom and or dad up as well to drive them there. It's impressive.
And funding wise too, it's a break even plus or minus a small margin each year, but the more kids we have, the more staff, we hire and vice versa, but we don't make money and we don't really lose money on it. So it's a nice break even endeavor.
Good for kids. Thank you. Thank you.
You want me to leave it on?
you can control it from here,
Mhm.
right? Okay. All right, next we have comments by board members and superintendent, an update on the first weeks of school.
So yeah, really, just nothing specific other than the overall, everything's going very well. We're off to a good start. Smiling faces, happy staff, happy kids, engaged, hit the ground running. Don't foresee any changes to any plans or, we're doing business. It's going well. So, yeah, that's all I have to say. I don't know. Do you have any questions specifically?
I greeted all the staff that first day. It's nice to see everybody. And one thing that was kind of fun for me is that Catherine has 3 of her classmates, softball team members are all teachers. I don't know their last names now, but Abby Williams, Kelsey Kriego, and Haley Hawkins. We're all on Catherine's softball team and graduated together. And they're all, my impression, they're just not teachers, they're really extraordinary teachers in each of their grades. They do good stuff. So it was fun to see that.
The only comment I would have is I haven't heard anything, so I'm assuming good news is good news with things like this.
Absolutely.
We had our one kid out for 3 days last week with a fever and a cough, but that's what it is. She wasn't excited when I picked up the homework, so the teachers went and got the homework Friday night and sent it home to do over the weekend, so it was great.
So we're not doing simultaneous education or sick, but kind of the old way homework. And are they recording classes or not?
Yeah, more. I mean, not necessarily every class, but yeah, more.
So I had, the teacher actually wrote in the notebook, the composition book, all the notes. And then wrote like a little note of what they were supposed to look up, and then the Chromebook, where to go on the Chromebook and where to reference the videos. And
What grade is that?
that was for 5th grade. So kind of across the entire gamut, the teachers wrote up a nice little note for Bryn to work through on everything. And granted, she would have preferred to have been outside more this weekend, but it's good.
The 5th grade's always done really good with that type of stuff. Just, I think it's because of the transition. But they send out the newsletters every week too, or whatever, more so than other grades. All smiles at my house with my kids, so
Mine too.
they're glad to be there. So
Feels good. Yep.
Nice. Next we have the staff appreciation bagel breakfast date. So something we do every October, correct?
I think Josh should do both papers.
Well, so I had,
I think he would.
I volunteered to do it last year, and it actually is great to get a chance to go in and do it. Just logistics, it's almost impossible to do it, to get to Hudson, get the bagels, and then actually make by the time they open, and then make every school before school starts, like every building, and talk to anybody at all. And then based on the cost, I just want to throw out that we do donuts twice a year for the price of bagels once a year. So I don't know what people's thoughts are.
Otherwise,
Do
I mean,
something.
those scones that Tammy makes are my
Yeah,
favorite.
I think
They're right
it'd
up
be a
there.
lot, logistically a lot easier, just have Tammy,
Scones,
you know,
everybody, Simon's.
we can pay for them like we have.
I think we should do it for like the foods class or something.
And then it would be nice to have 2 people do it. Just
Logistically.
logistics, like I had 25 minutes to get from the elementary school through everything back to this building. And I didn't drive quite fast enough.
Did you drop off to the bus garage too?
Yes.
Okay, bus garage, district office, high school, middle school.
Elementary school.
And then I think we brought to Trinity.
Yes, I dropped here for that, and then you brought it to Trinity.
I like
So-
the idea of just doing it internally.
Local, I like it.
Be a lot easier.
And then we would just.
Yeah.
Are we able to just pay for it though, right? Because that's.
Sure, yeah, she can just do bill.
Yeah.
They do catering for
Yeah.
Okay, for
all
whatever.
kinds of folks, yeah.
Okay.
Gives lunch account.
I think it's all free this year.
Exactly.
No, so do we have any volunteers? I would be fine taking half.
What date are we
Anybody would
thinking
want to
about
take
doing
it?
it?
That's completely up to you too.
Maybe not the first week of October.
Yeah, I mean, it's board appreciation week and the board.
What is
It's giving
the,
away.
typically, what is there a better day than others?
Right, do they have
Wednesdays,
staff
I think
meetings?
we did typically get Wednesdays. So not sure why, it's because there's usually leftovers, maybe, but the Thursday or.
I cannot do it on the 13th. I could do it on October 6th. Or the 20th. I could.
If you're
I like them.
could do the 13th or the 20th.
13th would be kind of a good day because the high school starts at 8:45 that day. So it's gonna be a little bit more lax.
I can't do it, but I'm before, so you won't miss me.
You wanna do it, we can definitely do it on the Dow, just so like calendar realize that high school's it's a late start for them.
At least that's what your kids told you.
No, that's a little district. Every time they tell me something, I say, I'll check the website.
Thanks for the information.
Yeah. Yeah.
Confirm there. Do it the 20th, that works for you, doesn't it, Brian?
Yeah, that works for me. I can do it on that.
Or you said the 13th?
Well, just the 13th at the high school might make it a bit easier just because they don't start till 8:45. But I know the teachers are hoping to use some of that time in the mornings as well. I can't do it, it's just work. Yeah. Get away from work to do it, so.
So the majority of us can do it on the 20th, so then we can divide
Yeah.
the different.
Yeah.
Vince, are you free
My birthday, I can take that day off work. It's great.
on the 20th?
Be 29.
Yep.
Nice.
All right, October 20th?
But it's the three of us, or it's?
And
As many people as.
Tim, help us, do these get all made at the high school, or are we gonna have to pick them up and bring them, or will they be?
They
in
would
each
be at the
building?
high school, but
Does that just like who makes them?
I guess,
In the high school they're made.
yeah, I wanna say, I don't think they're big from scratch.
No, I'm just asking, is it somebody we're buying bagels for with a nice gesture that has to make them for us to pick them up? That's what I'm kind of asking, like,
Oh, yeah, just happy to do it. It's just, I don't think there'll be that many staff involved in it. 2 or 3 of the staff probably at the high school and like I said, you know, Greg could assist even in delivery.
maybe we could get them, the ones that help, something small,
There you go.
pick up. Figure that out, okay. Okay, 10:20. And then who?
Oh,
Did you want to or no?
no, that's fine.
Okay,
I mean, it's fairly early, you know. Be done by 8:30.
and then we'll just have to figure out logistics once we figure out.
Yeah.
When.
So this is now scones instead of bagels.
Bagel breakfast.
Are they done, they'll be done the night before then? Well, she's not. Bake them that morning.
Something with the work with the name, I don't know the details of that.
Do we want them to be warm?
Yeah.
But they're only gonna be warm for,
Yeah.
they're gonna be cold by the time you get them to the.
Oh, I bought sleeping bags and like insulated those things coming from Hudson last year. You kidding me? Everybody had warm bagels. They got there.
He's going to heat up in his
Yeah.
car.
I did not do that. I did not do that. I'm like, it's all about the presentation. Seriously. Like I didn't want
I've
one
never
building to have
heard of
warm
that.
bagels and one to have cold bagels. I didn't want that. Bad.
Well, who, you're gonna talk to Tammy or?
We'll figure
Tim, or
it
you
out.
talk-
Yeah, we'll figure it out. And then we'll figure it out.
We just got
Bagels
October
taste like
20th.
fire feet.
No. Actually, the sleeping bags that I bought and never used.
Oh,
And I'm not huge on camping. All right. Figure that out. The next one's Wisconsin School Board Appreciation Week is October 3rd to 9th.
Yes, so we have a board meeting on the 4th, so we'll have, and tell me if you want something else or in addition, like meat, cheese, and cracker tray again, and fruit tray. And then, I'm not sure, what, did you check, see for package options? She said sodas before, she can, or maybe Pam had the sodas, I don't know. But we'll have snacks at night, so come hungry.
I will not be here for that.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm taking
Well, then
a
again,
vacation.
I think I'm not here.
after tonight's agenda item number.
Yeah.
um,
We might not, but I mean, I'm.
10
I don't
DB,
plan
maybe
here,
it'll be
so
over
even if we
8.
have it.
Yeah.
We can keep that one on the schedule.
So you won't be there either, for sure. Okay.
Well. 95% certain.
So then
October 4th.
then you run the meeting or?
No.
Well, he's
No, he's not gonna be there either. I don't know.
I do.
Yeah, Jeff knows.
If we have a quorum,
Right.
yeah, it'll float downhill, doesn't it?
Next on the agenda is the Wisconsin Association of School Board Legislative Conference on November 6th. So flyer, I think everybody probably received it in the mail. I received
It's a
mine
good
on
conference. I've
Saturday.
been to it many times, but I'm out of town. I have a coaching conference in St. Louis. So we really have good lobbyists for the school board association. They really are. I mean, they get as much as they can get. Sometimes it's an uphill battle. Legislature may not be predisposed to do much for us, but
So if anyone is interested, the registration deadline is the October 29th.
is it online or is it online or in person, I think?
Sure.
It's just in person.
I think it's just in
There were a
person.
lot of, the topics were really good. Got it there, you know, one was about referendum. And one is about a referendum thing, another one's a looming teacher supply challenge, what we do to combat it. Closer, I look at public opinion, Wisconsin, which is very relevant, obviously, the referendum. Making sense of the political environment, K-12 education, and look at the funding gaps. I mean, to me, I look at it,
All
I
good
want to
stuff.
try to go all that stuff.
Yeah.
And Stevens Point, it's a Saturday. It's during the rut.
You're just saying, be careful driving.
Yeah. that's
Yeah.
what he's getting at, yeah.
Okay. Next on the agenda is a Project Mallard update. David, if you have anything for the group.
We've got the minutes from tonight's meeting. They're having a meeting tonight, Roberts. Yeah, agenda for the meeting tonight, Roberts, Village Board meeting. There's a few items on there that would specifically address Project Mallard. One is the land use description. One is, I believe, the map of Roberts. But don't quote me on this stuff, 'cause I couldn't be there. So. I think these are a couple of the last steps that they would need, as long as the town of Warren goes along with the annexation of the land change to the land use map. And then it's not a rezoning, but it's going to like light industrial instead of commercial. I believe that might be the land use.
I mean, the part of the agenda is hard. It's discussion / approval of intergovernmental agreement between the Village of Roberts, Town of Warren regarding agreement to amend joint comprehensive plan for Project Mallard. I don't know. And then the other one is same thing.
Yeah, that's not the rezoning, but that is we agreed that this land can be used for something else, but it's not the actual zoning of it.
Another, the last one is planned for the purpose of updating and modifying the future land use map.
Yeah, that's kind of like their long range plan for the land.
Okay. Like I said, I tried to call Willard, but his voicemail was full. Couldn't leave a message, get more details, but I guess so. No more next few days.
Yeah, so nothing on the agenda directly impacting the school or anything for an update right now.
No, I mean, right now, Project Mallard is just, I think, causing the occasional flat tire around town and cutting phone lines, and if anything bad that happens in town right now, they're blaming on Project Mallard.
And
So it's not the school.
I'm on the joint review board and I have heard nothing about the next steps. I think all this has to be.
Yeah.
Was there anything in there in the development at all on the agenda, or is this?
Saw nothing about that, actually. I haven't seen or heard much about the housing development since that large public information meeting at the Roberts Park building. That kind of died out. The discussion about it, the uproar about it kind of died out. But overall, it seems like the huge hubbub of Project Mallard has died down a bit. There's still flare-ups here and there, but I don't hear much about it anymore as I used to. And I don't know what it is.
Okay. I was just wondering if there was anything on that. I mean, if that development's coming in, it's fairly sizable.
Yeah,
For a
it's
district.
estimated 300 to 400 homes.
Okay, so that's less than what he had told us before.
Yeah, I heard 500.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm going off the memory.
So that'd be the
Northeast corner of that section, like straight west Crucies. But again, it's just. That was.
Yeah, that's what I had heard was the east side of that section.
Yeah. See nothing concrete on that.
All right. More to come. Next we have consideration of consent agenda. Anyone have a question?
Motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Further discussion?
My only question, I guess, is on 7E. We're good on resources. How many requests do we have?
The summary. The summary. I found it there, but I don't really want to count everything, right?
And I'm just even a gotcha.
Say like 20-ish, 25-ish part-time and like 3 full-time. 4 full-time.
Good.
Good minutes.
Oh, that's good for me. I just wonder if we're talking like 5 or 50. So,
Somewhere between.
yeah.
So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. Next we have the administrative reports. Right, number 9, the key work of our school boards, discussion of future district needs and priorities.
I met with the Wold Architects and Engineers representatives today, and Mark Johnson as well, planning for the next community task force meeting. We were all at the last one, so it's really any report, but the next steps, have a good 4K representation there to explain the need for 4K addition to the building. Talked about Dan, I was going to create a link on the website for videos and minutes and just one easy go-to thing. Jen's going to continue to work on more details regarding compensation and some budget. They wanted a little deeper dive on that, as you saw. So we talked about having a special 6 o'clock invite for anybody that wants more details on that. Come at 6, because they really want to add another day or another meeting, right? We already have 7 and don't want to get too bogged down. So we thought that was the best way to do that. So Jen will present about 25 minutes worth of more detail and maybe 35 minutes or so for Q&A. And then I talked about we really needed the why. It's you can get details in 1993, the revenue limit, tax salary or caps were imposed. We can get into all those details, but that we haven't really hit, and I think I need to do a better job of is just the why, about why do we want to increase compensation? It's to attract and retain quality staff. It's really that simple. And the funding history and all that is some background and context, but I know some particular people got really bogged down on that in the past. And again, the other night, it's like that's a history lesson that's really not relevant to what we're trying to come up with in terms of needs in the future. And then lastly, they talked about maybe doing a survey. So we talked about just a couple simple open-ended questions. What do you see as the top needs, St. Clair Central School District? And what do you want to learn more? What do you want to learn more about? Just kind of a couple open-ended. And then I thought about a third one. What's your preferred method of communication? So if you have anything else, you think like, what should we ask? Be asking these folks, and it's gonna be in a postcard format. He's working on the draft now, but the postcard will be similar to the one that went out before. It'll go to every box holder. It'll say, hey, we're meeting. These are the meeting dates. Here's what we've talked about so far. Here's we've met twice. Here's what we talked about. Here's how you get more information. Another specific link on our website. And then here's a survey you can take. Pull the survey there. So all that'll be there. And then to the one woman's point, what about the folks that don't have internet? There's a blurb in there about stop by the district office with paper copies and information, paper handouts if you'd like that. So we thought we've covered everything that was kind of asked and talked about at that last meeting in terms of what do people want for the next meeting. We talked about he's not going to ask, hey, what have you learned since last meeting? Because that really went down a rabbit hole. What have your neighbors said? And we got half an hour off track. She's going to avoid doing that and wait until the questions and those types of things at the end after we cover all the information and make the meetings more efficient, because it was 9 o'clock and didn't even get to the stuff that we had hoped to get to. So next meeting is going to be a lot of facilities. We met with Greg Green and all the user groups, the athletics, middle school, high school, elementary, and 4K. So that's going to be the bulk of the next meeting, sharing those needs and the information he received in all those small group meetings. So that's the kind of the update on where we're at with that planning.
So one thing I think would help is if we just kind of set ground rules at the beginning again, that we're not going to troubleshoot in the middle of the information. Like when we're providing information and data, there was a lot of trying to well, what if you do this? What if you do that? Have you thought of this? Have you thought of that? We're trying to solve it. And it's like, no, we're trying to disseminate information to you right now, the data that you're looking for. And then we're going to have those conversations later about what does it look like. We're trying to give you all the data. Then let's try to formulate, right? And I think that would help streamline it somewhat, and not let people speak, but try to
make it more efficient.
contain it a little, just like any meeting, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you try to stay on task to some extent.
Yeah.
I appreciate that perspective as a professional meeting goer, but most of these people aren't.
Yeah.
So when you cut them off, they see it as rude or not being open to their comments. So it's a balance.
That's why I'm saying, say it ahead of time, not during, because if you do it during, that's just sort of that's really all we're trying to.
Like Tim kind of covered it, right?
Yeah.
But, we weren't even giving, but it just Tim to Ben.
I almost would think it'd be better for Ben to do it than you, because you sound like you're trying to cut things off where he's like, no, we're trying to get efficient so we can get to everything. So just have these crowds rather than you saying it.
No, I asked, where do I go? Oh, whatever.
Is there a place for written ideas? Like perhaps they have a thought during the meeting. Can they write it down and give it to
In my
someone?
Girl Scout board meeting, we always had index cards that you could put, your comments about the meeting or a thought that you didn't feel needed to have everybody, and have those available. We could write them. You and Ben could receive them.
It is a good, efficient way for everybody to.
Particularly people that aren't as comfortable
Exactly.
raising their hand and saying it out loud.
And I do think we've got a really good, diverse group. It really is a pretty good representation of our community.
Yeah.
And, there's disagreements and head nodding and head shaking, and that's all healthy. And
But I think it's been really productive to have people see tech ed and food service.
Yeah.
Those things were enlightening, people hadn't seen before.
In feedback, each time, and every venue is a little different with technology and streaming. It's a challenge, but going to the different sites. Next time we'll start at the middle school. We're gonna get on the bus right away, go over here to Trinity, tour that, come back, and then finish. But yeah, I'm appreciative of sharing. He's like, well, one of us, those of you that don't go into the classroom or on the tour, maybe you should stay back. Somebody said, because there was a group of us in the hallway chatting and made it hard to hear. Like, yeah, you're right. And they understand why board or admin maybe aren't going into the rooms. They've been there many times, but then stay back because they kind of were a little loud outside the door. So good feedback. Yep, you're absolutely right.
Okay.
And then we'll talk about after this next one, we'll have hit all the sites, and then maybe the best meeting room would be the large group or instruction room, the lecture hall in the high school. It's got the space, you can kind of have small group stuffs too, and you got the technology, you can hear and see well.
And not so big.
Yeah.
Have you started discussion on the community survey, the actual engaged community survey?
Haven't with Peter Leatherman, no, we're kind of in a holding pattern. It's, we gotta be near the end of the community task force work to vet some of those things.
Alright. Next agenda is the consideration of increasing internal teacher classroom subrates, exhibit 10A.
So this idea was born out of, again, our ever-present shortage of subs and coverage and brainstorming. Admin's been a better part of a long meeting, just brainstorming ideas, but this is one of them. I thought was definitely doable, and tested the idea with the staff on opening week, and it certainly would incentivize folks, and I think, help. We think we get more people that would cover more classes, and it's been stuck at $15 for as long as everyone can remember for that internal sub coverage. So again, to clarify, this is for teachers that cover when other teachers are gone. My prep is $6. I volunteer to cover for, Mrs. Smith, 7th hour. Somebody who's prep is 6th hour, they cover 6th hour. We get it covered for the day with 7 or 8 different teachers. But it was been $15 forever. So we talked about moving up to $25 for the hour for the class period, and asked Jen to run based on the number of hours we covered. In a typical year, I don't remember how many years she averaged out, because last year wasn't necessarily typical with Fridays not in session for the most part, but she came up with $14.27 as the average and costed that out. The $25 per hour for the 13,000, plus you throw in FICA and Wisconsin retirement systems up there, it's 15,828 is the estimate that she said would be no problem working into this year's budget. Since this is a pay rate thing that the board approves, it's, they every year you approve the different rates for extracurriculars and subbing, etc. We wanted to bring it to you for your consideration. It would need your approval.
The number that she's using is the average of what it's been in the past. Do we think that by upping it from 15 to 25, that the number of hours that people would be willing to cover would increase?
Well, it's based on the number of people that are absent, right? So we don't, that's, I don't think it necessarily will.
Well, and then it's also the delta.
Maybe, yeah, I see your point, because maybe there's some just went on the field, like we didn't have coverage, right? And we had to send the kids to the library, or we doubled them up in classrooms or special. So yeah.
Well, maybe I'm not understanding this, but this is just when we've used internal subs. So this doesn't count when we've used a normal substitute teacher.
Correct.
So what I'm saying is, do you think that the number of substitute teachers would be less, we would need less of them because there's more of a chance that an internal sub would cover?
If I think I understand your question correctly, the internal subs only cover when we can't get a sub.
Okay.
Like say, you know what, we don't have anybody. So then this is our plan B and C.
So this isn't plan A.
No.
Okay. So then that probably.
Administrators sitting in a classroom,
Yeah, counselors, principals.
they get to pay to only teachers.
Yeah. And we can't have parents cover because they're not licensed. But you're right, I mean, there
It's
might be
interesting,
some
you can't
ones
have a
because
para? But you can have a substitute that isn't licensed.
Well, substitute is a license. They have a substitute license.
They do.
Yeah, you have to have a bachelor's degree, basically, is your only requirement, and then you gotta apply to the state, background check, and pay your $100 your license, yeah.
Should we be
So long-term
Should we
substitutes,
be licensing some paras as potential?
they would have to
staff?
qualify if the bachelor's degree.
I would guess a lot of them probably have.
Mhm.
Oh, they don't.
Yeah, no, we've brainstormed that option. We would if we could, if they were available. For short-term substitute, for long-term substitute, they have to have a teaching degree. So there's a differentiation there.
You know what Pam our daily sub rate is, not for internal. but
122.50, I think. It was 120 and then it's increased 2%, so maybe 124, yeah.
And did,
Okay, so you're looking at internal rate, we're paying it about $200 a day. For a sub.
Yeah, if it's 6, typically, teacher teaches 6 on the 8 hours. They gotta prep for them, they do to your lunch. Yeah. So yeah, 150, so it'd be a little more, but in my mind, I think our resident staff's probably.
Yeah, I'm just trying to run numbers in my
Yeah.
head. I was coming up with 200, but I was going 8 hours a day. Instruction 6.
Yeah,
So
cell phone, but you're on, yeah, whatever that is divided by 6 for 124 divided by 6. Was what
It's an actual problem. We have a hard time filling those shifts.
For a motion then, make a
Yes.
motion to adjust the internal classroom sub rate to $25 now.
second,
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. All right, on to 10B, discussion on optimizing board efficiency. It's pretty generic. It's pretty open-ended. So just wanted the conversation around, currently we have twice a month, right? And they both, yeah, it depends on the meeting, I guess, on how long they go. But sometimes we talk about stuff that isn't always board items, and we do have a tendency to get sidetracked, myself included, and stuff that isn't always pertinent. So just looking for ideas and thoughts around, you know, anything open to anything, any ideas, any concepts, can we get down to one, right? That one might be slightly longer, some months, but we could always call another one if we would need one, right? If we had something hot that we had to talk about, we could always call an additional. I know it would require signatures from the 3 of us to come in on some other time that works for ourselves in the office to do some of that for signatures. I know that that would be required. And then I think, Tim, you ran it by others, and
Yeah.
it was,
Jen, the financial, yeah, wouldn't be a problem with the financial thing in business.
how do we do bills?
What's that?
They're gonna pay bills twice a month still.
Yeah.
And we wowould simply authorize Erica to approve bills.
You only need a board approval once per month, really, is what Jen said. You only need approval once per month. Because like, never has the board said, nope, we don't approve this one, right? And they're like, so, but state statute requires board approval. So you can still get, you know, the board approval after the check's been sent. But yeah, paying bills timely is important. You know, I know with officials, for example, right? If the board, if they officiated the day after the board meeting, sometimes, you know, and then it would miss whatever, one board meeting a month, and then, you know, it'd be 5 weeks before they get a check in.
So they don't get a check that night,
And I always said, like, why are we holding it
right?
70 or 55 to 90, I think 95 now, the highest dollar check. You know, it's like you always said, it's in the budget, but well, there's vendors too, right? We just don't want to have a reputation with any vendors or whatever yet. We don't pay them in a timely manner.
So I'll just share, I didn't invent it, but when I chaired the Westfield Hospital Board, we had a one-page agenda, which included a consent agenda, but we had times this was gonna be 5-minute discussion. And I never cut things off if we needed to talk more. But I'd look down, I'd be managing the meeting and know that, okay, we're gonna have to cut this one short, and oftentimes it was the CFO financial report. I mean, all this stuff was already in the materials, but it's like, you get 4 minutes instead of 12. And, and that's, if we finished at time certain, and if I was 1 minute late, I apologize to the board for running the meeting so poorly. We stuck to the timeline. And I don't think we ever cut off discussion that needed to be discussed. And, it was a 100 million top line, but 60 million came in and out. So it wasn't, it was a small budget, $60 million budget. So, you have administrators for lots of this stuff that I think a lot of our discussion. And it may require some of us to prep more, so that, and if you have a question before, give Tim a call. And some of them is good to have out in the open, because I didn't think of that question, so thanks for asking, and everybody needs to hear community, but a lot of it is just, I didn't see it. Then if we ask the question in advance, then Tim can consider other people present, that they can answer that question. Not have a lot more discussion.
For me, my biggest thing about meetings is silence is not acceptable. If nobody is saying anything, move on.
Yeah.
And I sometimes, I may move on quick for some people, but that's the way I run a meeting, because I don't like just sitting there going, do you have anything to say? If you've got something to say, say it. This is your opportunity. Nobody said anything. Next item. And
I think we're all pretty good about speaking up. I'm maybe better than most, but Howard would go around the room, and even if you didn't feel comfortable, even if you didn't have anything to say, he would ask, Jeff, you have anything? Like, no, we're all adults. We don't have to be prompted.
But I mean, I think everybody knows when I run a meeting, that's the way it is. This is what we're talking about. Any discussion? Can I get a motion? I have a motion. I got a second. Any more discussion? No. All in favor? Aye. Next topic. And I tend to just boom, 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 boom. That's my suggestion, is to just make sure that we don't have a lot of spans of silence.
I think, Tim, I think it's way better than it used to be, but when your team presents, I think they're much more efficient, but sometimes Shirley Armisen is the worst. I mean, she would go through minutia and details.
Oh, I started every administrator reported. I mean, it's at least 45 minutes for administrative reports.
How it was going. And we still need to hear that once in a while, but not every meeting. But I think even like the presentation today, I thought it was perfect. It wasn't too long, not too short, got the flavor of what was important, but we didn't read us the whole chart of things. There's lots of things that we were doing. But I think that helping particularly as they present less and less, that, make sure that they're brief and to the point. This is the board level of needing to know, and we don't need to get down into the details. Because, we all have day jobs that we roll in the weeds. So if you put us out in the field, we're going to roll in the weeds, because that's what we do during the day. It's hard to avoid it. So.
That's something that we had discussed before on that, and I don't know that I'm necessarily keen on going down to one meeting. Running the meetings more efficiently, I'm absolutely for it. The one thing that I had mentioned to you guys is we had started the board learning meeting as a way to figure out how we as a board could become better board members, better educated, better serve the community. That meeting, I think, still needs to happen, but it's basically become a second board meeting is what it's become. We've lost track of that. I don't think we should get rid of that meeting. to pull the stuff from that meeting that doesn't need to be there. Get it in the board meeting, and as you say, get more efficient about how we deal with that stuff. Both meetings, I think, still need to happen. They could both be, I think, shorter, more efficient, but I would hate to see that board learning meeting go away. I'd like to see that get redirected or rerouted back to its original intent, was to make us better as board members of how do we do our job better.
And we went through the
Could you
key
have it
work
both
of,
at the same night
Uh,
or not?
I don't, I wasn't part of it, so I
You
don't
could have
know.
one meeting,
I don't know what we're,
For development.
Yeah.
You know, as an agenda.
I'm gonna be starting at 5.
So yeah, that meeting used to be toward development and
Mhm.
some
And we had
keyword
the
of school, kind of like a board retreat, keyword of it, plus some administrative. There
there
was
was a couple things.
information about, hey, this is what we're doing.
Yep, since we're together,
Standards and stuff.
so when we had a newspaper, they only came to the regular board because there really wasn't, we weren't intending to make decisions at the board learning.
right, that's why I say I think that board learning meeting needs to get back to what it was intended to be, is just discuss how do we become better board members? How do we do our jobs better?
And that meeting doesn't have to happen every month.
Oh, it could be. Maybe it didn't.
I mean, we don't,
that's
You
what I
know,
was
just-
wondering, is it quarterly? I was just gonna ask that, I'm not.
I would hate to see those meetings go away
Yeah,
just for
no,
the
I-
sake of, no, we have too many meetings, get rid of one. That one I think is important, and if it's not
like I said, I don't think we need to have that. If it's gonna be targeted towards that, I don't think that needs to be an every month meeting.
Well, the other one too is if we, I mean, if we went back, would people have a tendency, a higher tendency to go to something like this? If we did once a month, right? Because some of these things might be better than a board meeting.
Well,
The
the
board meeting.
The board learning is nice because if one person goes to that, then they come back with information to share with all of us. So
When we went to the second board meeting, we were doing the key work of school board that, and you were taking a chapter, a section, and marching through that.
Yeah.
You know, 10 different things, and how did we do, could we do this better? And so to go back to your point, maybe we do need to have a curriculum that we march through, whether we redo that, because only a couple of us that were through that, so everybody would be new to everybody else.
Yeah, and even if we got through it, it's like, okay, we're through the key work. What's next? There's gotta be something else out there for us to help us. There's gotta be something.
free discussion.
I definitely think, especially since it's been so long since the three of us went through it, to go through that exact same thing again, the key work of school boards, go through that.
That's the book.
It's produced by the National School Association.
Yeah, so it's the one that.
It really is kind of the Bible, yeah.
I mean, it may be worth, like you say,
Okay.
it's been so long, if we just do that again, but I think I would hate to see that meeting go away, and I mentioned that to you guys before. I'd hate to see that go away, but it's just, that's turned into just a board meeting.
Refocus the board learning on board
On
member.
board learning, right, on
I mean,
development.
Does everybody think like
Yeah.
every month, or is that like a quarterly thing, or what do people think of that, or every
I
other,
think we could do quarterly on it.
every other
Still
month,
have it
or
be
something? I'm
effective.
just asking.
You know?
It's harder for me to remember if it isn't every month, but is this the one we're meeting? Is this the Monday we put out trash, or is it next week?
Take the summer off.
Personally, I would like to see that be monthly.
I'm okay with it.
I think I'm,
Especially if we're gonna go through the book, again, the practices again, I want to see that concerted effort, at least on a monthly basis, of getting together and discussing it. There was activities for us to do on our own and come back next time and talk about it. And I think we do once a quarter, every 3 months, just sort of, yeah, I know I gotta get to that, I gotta get to that, I gotta get to that. And then the night before, you're cramming like you're, final in college,
How long were those meetings?
Probably not more than an hour, hour and a half.
Usually it was from 6:30 to 8.
we could set a time limit on it too.
Yep.
Just, it's what the time is.
We can still keep the consent agenda on it because it literally takes a minute.
Right.
Like that way, any new
And
hires.
we'd
can
be
approve timely.
assembled to sign things that needed.
Brian and I could sit down and come up, when I started, remember, like, you'd already been through it and it was kind of old news, like, yeah, no. And we did it for a little while, but it was all like review, so it lost its thing and it slowly converted into a second business meeting.
Yeah,
There's always been those, as you had said, though, just those few things that, hey, we got some administrative stuff. It's just, since we're all here.
This is a new, yeah.
And
I don't see
honestly,
any reason for that to go away, but I think we need to refocus those meetings onto becoming a better board.
honestly, we usually get through the agenda pretty fast. It's just, I would say no closed sessions on the board learning thing.
Yeah.
Well, or our.
You know, because we could sit back there for an hour.
It's been taking
Yeah.
a long time. You know, us three new people have just had a lot of questions that you guys were patient.
Oh,
with
tell us about it.
I'm
I'm kidding, I'm kidding.
That took a long time because we had so many questions, so those first meetings were lengthy.
Yeah.
But I feel some of it.
I always like the
Figure it out.
presentations too. So, I mean, because sometimes
Yeah.
students are gonna present, right? So
Yeah.
it might work better with their schedule to be able to come. I don't know, so,
Well, if they come on regular
I'm just saying,
meeting.
Typically highlighted youth.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's a regular board
Doesn't
meeting.
have to be. Yeah, we could try to, we'll fully focus on board learning. We could keep it till an hour, hour and a half.
There's lots of things we could, apart from the key work at school board. We've done different things in there that would be beneficial to have, you know, at a high level to understand strategic planning stuff, or, you know, I just read it. It's old stuff. I asked Lee about it, but Clayton Christensen wrote a book called Disrupting Classes. He was a Harvard business professor, and it was about, his whole work was about disruptive innovation. And he took on schools as, you know, the way we teach kids. And it was written in 2008, but it's all about differentiated learning and how we have these silos of math teachers that learn, they're good at math, so that's how they learn math, and that's how the textbooks are written. But it isn't written in a way that kids that don't think formulas, they can still understand math, but maybe in a visual way. But we've, you know, so it's just about teaching differently. And I think actually with the differentiated learning, we've moved away. He had, and some of you would appreciate this for me in particular, he suggested every kid ought to have an IEP. And he wrote this in 2008. And I said, you know, hey, that's what we're, you know, we've been doing. So I think some of those things, not that everybody have to read the book, but someone could come and talk about some of those key principles and see how that might influence our strategic decisions. It, to me, it reinforced the standards-based assessment stuff that the, you know, grew out of grassroots. This guy actually suggested it's never going to come from the top. It's always going to come from the grassroots. And so it's just, I mean, some of those things we could do in board learning. I think we could, you know, a couple of us could take on what's going to be the learning objective? You know, what do we want to cover in that meeting?
I think one of the first meetings here, we can talk about what you want, right? What are your guiding principles? So if we stray from that and we get in some rabbit hole stuff and come back.
But I'm thinking just going through the key work at school.
That's a
nice
great start,
framework,
especially with,
you know,
for
take
you.
us
Yeah.
6 to 12 meetings.
And on a separate night. I mean, is that
Well,
is that
I
too
think so,
much to
yeah.
put in the regular
Yeah,
meeting? and
it would
then
be too
it's
much.
Too much?
Yeah.
I mean,
the
what if you did a half an
difference
hour?
the need that you're saying now is the efficiency.
Yeah, but if you have a half an hour,
We're gonna,
I don't think it's enough.
no.
Because it's part of it is about discussing it.
so, I mean, so the only thing that I'll say, just like my impression is I would be concerned that we would get everything out of it, because I don't know if we'd be prepared for it. Because I don't think we read all of the exhibits before we come to these regular meetings, and these are really simple exhibits, and kind of everybody, it's a lot of, not everybody, but it's the first time we even look at it, right? Is in the meeting, so that, I mean, that would be a little bit of my concern, is that if we can't do this, will we do a good job with that? I'm just
It was, when we
Not-
did it before,
being completely honest.
it helped to read it in advance, but I don't think most people. I did, but I don't think most people did, and it was still effective. I think it's.
Well, at least coming back, right? What was one of the things you committed to in that document was being prepared for board meetings, be an effective board. You know, to your point, if you want to be efficient, do a little homework. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Yeah, I'm just trying to efficient. I was sort of like, well, if we don't have time to prep twice a month, can we prep really well once a month?
Right.
If we have time, right? Like, can we like get everything read and be prepared for it? That's part of the reason I'm asking that, right?
I think that's a commitment we have to make. Hey, we're gonna do this board learning, let's take it seriously. And learn.
We should give it a shot for a quarter and then reassess.
Yeah.
See if
I think that's,
so.
I mean, I think we need to be honest, hey. People aren't, we don't have to call out names, but obviously people aren't doing the prep, so it's wasting the rest of our time catching up that, you know, yeah, rather than in advance. Once in a while, you don't have time, that's fine. But I like that. Let's just do it for a quarter and
And hitting the keyword at the very least is important with board members. I think they're gonna be reviewed, but I would hope we've done it
But it's been,
By now, right?
it's been so long since
4 months.
we did it though.
oh, I don't even know if I can find my copy. It's 10 years ago.
That's what I mean. It's been so long since we actually did it. I mean, it's gonna be 60-70% of it is gonna be first choice again. Yeah.
I think we have a lot we can learn from the veterans here or something like that too.
So with that said, are we meeting on October 4th? And if so, is it gonna be our first?
So I wanted to ask, the next one I was gonna ask is, yeah, I won't be here that week, probably.
No commitment.
Do we? Do we
So we could
want
choose
just
for-
because of this? Do we want to have the meetings on Mondays?
Or Wednesday.
Which means,
Any meetings,
Oh,
school
yes.
board meetings in general.
Yes.
So far Mondays work best for me.
Shaped my whole life for Monday night meetings, but actually I have any other night of the week. I would rather not have Friday nights, but
by vote, I'd say Wednesdays.
Wednesdays.
And that would be the best for mine personally, but I'm
We're
committed to
gonna
Mondays.
plan on Mondays for
It's
Committed to
been in my
16
calendar
years.
forever.
I just know Mondays are hard.
And Wednesdays are activity free.
Mhm.
Those are the kids' events.
Yeah, we wouldn't have.
You just like Monday, or do you have commitments on Wednesdays?
I could miss one Wednesday a month for what I would do on Wednesday.
Well, what about
I
four,
see
two
what you-
times a month? Because we're gonna have two board
Oh, I
meetings.
don't know about that.
You're on a team, aren't you?
Yes.
Yes.
And I just know, yeah, but, you know, right, the board meetings are set for a year and I, you know, my college basketball schedule, they have a lot of Wednesdays. College
Oh.
basketball, and that would be
Would it be important to have you there?
yeah, I mean, contracts are out or anything, I'd have to look to see how many Wednesdays, but not that
But it's something we could.
they
No,
understand,
but
like,
next
this is
year,
my
like you
job.
would be like, well, then you wouldn't
Exactly.
just sign up for
Yes,
Wednesdays. You would.
I just
they
block them
put-
off when they, yeah.
So I see what you
But
did.
there would be a horizon on that, right? I mean, that goes until March. Right?
As long
we
as your
could,
team sport.
we could
Unless you're in the final
sit
four.
here
Okay.
and, you know, we continue to meet on Mondays, but we're gonna have board learnings on Wednesdays. Figure out which Wednesdays work. Wouldn't it all have to be on Monday or all be on Wednesday?
Especially if it's a learning, right? I mean, like, Tim's been through it. Other than we'd have to figure out how to run this thing.
Did we only approve just regular meetings? When we did our schedule or what?
No, we approved.
All of it.
You know what, I've only got one Wednesday right now,
And what Wednesday is that?
is, November 17th.
Which is.
That's a Wednesday.
Thanksgiving.
So it's weird season.
The one,
Thanksgiving.
yeah,
Just the Wednesday.
The Wednesday before
Yeah.
Thanksgiving? Oh, that would be.
No.
It's-
It's two Wednesdays before, it's Wednesday before deer season. Not that I checked that.
So, just as important. 'Cause you're usually a hunting meeting that night.
It's a holiday in Wisconsin, isn't it?
The Wednesday prior.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so to kind of summarize,
Yeah.
what's
In
kind of the
time.
agreement?
So I think we wanna consolidate the agenda times, I've heard, right? And then we want to convert the learning to a learning meeting. reestablish that and stick with school board agenda on a regular board meeting.
And I would say,
We put a time limit on it.
Well,
yeah, and I would
we
say.
just have to be
on,
really careful with that. Like, it has to be like a dire exception or something, just because
90
otherwise you
minutes
slip
time
right
limit.
back.
On the board learning meeting, I think we should also put a 90-minute limit on it to say it's gotta be done by 8 o'clock. And if,
Well,
Well,
so we
we're
start
gonna
at
start at
7.
7 though.
oh, we're starting with, oh, that's right, so.
But a learning
But
session,
officially,
1 hour's, I mean, normally 1 hour's a long meeting.
Well, we could always be done before it, but then.
Yeah, I would just say it's to go no longer than an hour and a half, and we set the agenda for it to be an hour. You wanna do it for an hour?
I don't think we've got there yet. So
Okay with that?
with that, then, well, she wouldn't have to attend. You would have to attend that.
Board learning, I don't.
Board learning.
Except
We
we
wouldn't be
don't
approving
take
anything, really,
minutes.
would we? We'd be-
We've worked hard to get.
Well,
away from taking
I think, didn't we
minutes.
say we could do a consent agenda? Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Uh,
just so we could keep the bills the same. Yes, we do
Yeah,
now.
I mean, that's 2 minutes.
2 minutes, yeah.
If we don't allow for signing. It's consent agenda, somebody.
And then do we want to
somebody
try to
make a
push the learning meeting to a Wednesdays? then? Try that? That'd be once a month.
We could try.
motion.
And then we'll make a decision in the December
See if it's going well.
meeting if it's going well.
I like that. And are we doing the third Wednesday? First Monday and the third Wednesday?
The regular board meeting is the
Oh,
third.
First
Right.
Wednesday,
The first
first
Wednesday.
Wednesday, third Monday.
Yeah.
Yeah, regular meetings.
So we want to roll into Thanksgiving
so-
Eve, so.
So, really trying to, I'm not trying to get out of this one, but just so we're not, do we want to take a look at this in the next meeting, keep the next one the week of October 3rd? And you guys can commit to it and figure it out, or do we want to pull the calendar right now?
We have to, actually, we probably have to notify, we probably have to, because the schedule's already, I don't know how we.
Okay, that's what we'd have to
We'd have
change.
to, we'd have to make a
We
motion
have to make a motion to set all of those.
to adjust the meeting schedules.
Right.
Which isn't really on the agenda, so that's what I think.
Yeah,
maybe
that's why I think we can't do it right now.
We need to set that,
This was just
meeting
discussion.
agenda on the
Yeah.
item is change the meeting dates.
I mean, we can make a decision
Well,
to put it on the agenda in this meeting though, right? We don't have to make a motion for that, like how you conduct it.
So it's just discussion, it wasn't discussion/approval.
Yeah, I'm just saying like putting a time limit on an agenda item doesn't require.
Yeah,
No,
and we could even do that in our regular meeting, can't, when you guys are making it, can't you? Press
Yeah.
that.
yeah, that's what he
Yeah.
said, yeah.
And then the other one that
It'll be posted that way too.
this is what I talked to Tim about before, a couple months ago, is what do we want to just kind of set up like this revolving schedule that would kind of make sense annually, that like this summer school update would occur this month, because that makes sense, right? So then everybody knows that, the meeting this month is when they come in and discuss this item. And then we have probably Nick's is in the summer sometime, Nick Dean, right, when we get the curriculum with scoring and some stuff like that, that I think we could come up with like a nice like calendar, so people could be prepared ahead of time of what we would like to talk about.
Yeah.
Maybe it's
Did you already
even
have a
quarterly,
template
so it
like
doesn't.
that, Tim?
Well, yeah, so Pam, when I started, Pam, we have last
Yeah.
monthly,
Yeah, but hers is
Callie
like
has it now.
Spreadsheets is like this big, because all the different.
but we don't have it to your degree of organization for the month forward, like this is each month. we're gonna cover these things.
Or it could just be, like this month is just something, an update on CTE classes, right? Or whatever at some point, like in whatever you choose, the administration choose to update us on. Just give me examples. Something like that they could just update us on what they think is pertinent. So give them some flexibility to present what they're passionate about to us as well. Just put some framework out there.
I'd like building a board, like an annual calendar, to make sure that we've
Yeah.
covered all the
Right.
things that we need to cover, and then people know, Nick knows that in October, he's gonna come and talk about that. Doesn't have to worry about being called next month because it's not his month. or
Yeah.
whatever. We'd have to fit Paulette in there to do community education. And then she knows about it ahead of time. Something more than just unicycles. You know,
Okay.
and I don't know how this fits in board efficiency, but it always was kind of nice to have elementary kids come and sing their song or, you know, so that kind of something starting this or.
Yeah, highlight on you.
Highlight on
Put
you.
it,
Yeah.
put that right in the calendar too, because it seems like that's fallen off too. Pam always had to say, hey, who's interested? Who's
Well, last
what do you
year
got?
it
What do you
fell
have? What do you have? And yeah,
Or you can give it to them, if we give them a calendar, right? Like,
yeah. This
Fill
is
it
your
in.
month.
Shelley, this is your month, right? So it's,
Come up with something.
you know, whatever you want to come with,
Yeah. Be hard.
especially if you do,
I like that.
right? Not stepping forward. It's like, no, you've been
Yeah.
voluntold.
So we'll recommit the highlight on here too. And yeah. As you know,
But even
educators don't like to toot their own
If you
horn,
got
so
5 minutes or
prompt
10
them.
minutes, whatever we give them, they don't get a half an hour.
Yeah, yeah, everything's
So maybe you don't even get to sing the whole song.
15 minutes or less. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's a, you know, remember a song that's that
Right.
long in the elementary school. At least I couldn't, that was
I
in
need
elementary
a
school.
baking song, I haven't heard that in a couple
Oh,
of years.
yeah.
I Still do
Gino
that.
Harrison's.
Okay, so, can we put something on the
Take that on the
agenda
agenda.
for next month, like, that we will actually,
Approval of modified.
Board meeting.
this discussion approval of board meeting calendar,
Modifications to.
modification of the calendar or whatever.
The first step is just to come up with the dates, meeting dates, you're saying, okay. Then
I think
the
starting
calendar
in
you talked about,
November.
the highlighting youth, the board alert,
Yeah.
all that
That's
stuff.
between you and
happen.
us.
So which, is it the first Mondays that are the learning ones?
Yeah.
Cause that's typically when there's a holiday too, right? And then
Yeah, like,
Memorial Day and.
exactly, then you kick it back to the second, fourth, like this month, and then you turn around and you'll have back-to-back meetings. Last week in September, first week in October again, so we run that a few times.
Okay.
So if we do the first, it's the first Wednesday and the third Monday. It'd be the new.
On
We'll
a-
start that in November.
On a waning moon.
So we'll start that in November.
So I think we'll avoid a lot of those.
Give that motion.
Memorial Labor Day type
That's the discussion that Brian and I were having before. the
Yeah.
meeting, Is that a lot of times I'll get that Monday off from work.
And then there's a couple months, July and December, where we've only had one,
Yep.
and we should change that.
We could put summer schedule too. We could do them once a month.
Yeah,
I think it pushes it out to January, February until we decide if it's working or not, though. Yeah, we're missing a month. That's what the- Push it to the end.
Okay, yeah, good discussion.
Alright. Next, I'm gonna have a reminder to submit thank you and recognition nominees on the Google Doc. And then the fall regional meeting at 7 on October 12th. And then January 19th to the 21st, again, is the state convention.
Where is that regional meeting? Is it in Menominee?
I think it is.
I have the flyer at home. I don't remember. I thought that's what it,
I thought that's what I read.
on it, that's what it said, but
So,
we are reaching 4, right?
Yeah.
Menominee, off Broadway, which is by the Stout Hill House. They renamed it on October 12th.
and we have to register, so Kelly, can you, I'll go to that.
Okay.
and then we have the important upcoming dates. And with that, I don't have to read this, right? Nope. Or a motion to.
We'll go into closed session.
Second. Aye.
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 Jeff?
Aye.
Aye. Brian, aye. Erica,
Aye.
and everybody else too.
Done, hold on a second. If I end it, you need to end it, okay, I'll stop the recording, stream.
Everybody, just a couple minutes.